So, fashion innovation, Fashionovation, is Fashionopolis. Now, what does this mean? Well, let me first explain what Fashionopolis is. It's a word I made up for the title of my most recent book, the third I've written after Deluxe, How Luxury Lost Its Luster, and Gods and Kings, The Rise and Fall of Alexander McQueen and John Galliano. The idea is that the world is, in fact, a fashionopolis, a place where everywhere you turn, fashion is somehow happening. It could be a farmer growing cotton, or a seamstress sewing in a couture atelier, or a model on a runway, or a sales clerk ringing up the clothes you want to buy. 1 out of 6 people somehow work in the fashion industry, making it the most labor-intensive industry out there, more than agriculture, more than defense. But the fashion industry is also extremely damaging to the planet and to humanity. And it has been since day one, when an English wig maker and entrepreneur named Richard Arkwright pulled together some of these newfangled machines and opened the world's first water-powered textile mill in Derbyshire, England. With that, Arkwright kicked off the Industrial Revolution, the transition from handmade to machine-made, giving rise to the factory system that we still rely on today. He also gave us a polluting, miserable hell, one that Frederick Engels documented in detail in his landmark book, The Condition of the Working Class in England in 1845. This hell that inspired Charles Dickens to write Oliver Twist, that drove German expressionist filmmaker Fritz Lang to make the beautiful yet devastating silent picture Metropolis in 1927. And a hell that still plagues the industry today. Only 2% of the labor force in factories earn a living wage. Most of these workers are working in sweatshops, which are shoddy and dangerous, as we learned with the collapse of the Rana Plaza factory in Bangladesh in 2013, killing more than 1,000 workers and injuring more than 2,500. According to the World Bank, fashion is responsible for nearly 20% of all industrial water pollution annually. And it reportedly releases 10% of the carbon emissions in our air. 1 kilogram of cloth generates 23 kilograms of greenhouse gases. Synthetic fabrics release microfibers into water when washed, both at mills and at home. And up to 40% of those microfibers enter our rivers, lakes, and oceans, are ingested by fish and mollusks, and worm their way up the food chain to humans. Of the more than 100 billion items of clothing produced each year, 20% go unsold. Leftovers are usually buried, shredded, or incinerated. In the last 20 years, the volume of clothes Americans throw away has doubled from 7 million to 14 million tons. That equals 80 pounds per person per year. In the United Kingdom, 9,500 garments are dumped every 5 minutes. Textiles are the country's fastest growing waste stream. Most clothing contains synthetics, and most synthetics are not biodegradable. It all sounds terribly grim, I know, but there is hope. And that's where innovation in fashion, or Fashionovation, comes into play. Through the Herculean efforts of brave advocates, creators, entrepreneurs, innovators, investors, and retailers, and the unfeigned demands of the rising generation of conscientious consumers, the apparel industry is being forced to veer towards a more principled value system. Visionaries throughout the world are recasting the business model with technological advances that will completely change how apparel is made today. And the total rapid rethinking of how we buy what we wear. Take Bold Threads, the Bay Area biotech firm that produces lab-grown silk. Traditionally, raw silk is spun in cocoons by silkworms. And to recover the thread undamaged, cocoons are submerged in boiling water, killing the larvae. It's filthy, nasty work that gives pro-animal designers like Stella McCartney pause. For Bolt's lab silk, geneticists and microbiologists designed a DNA sequence to create the silk protein, where it is introduced to yeast and programmed to produce silk. Some days, the laboratories at Bolt Threads on the San Francisco Bay smell like a bakery. The DNA-infused yeast is fed dextrose, sugar, and water, and taken through the fermentation cycle. The silk grows, the cell broth is filtered and centrifuged, and what remains is pure silk. It looks shiny, like champagne-colored taffy. Very Willy Wonka. Stella McCartney made the first Bolt silk garment, a sexy gold knit cocktail dress, for an exhibition at the Modern Museum of Art in New York in 2017. She's now folding this fabric material, this fiber, into her collection. Bolt is also working on a faux leather made of mycelium, an underground root structure of mushrooms. McCartney, a leather-free designer, will be using Milo, as this lab-grown material is called, for her handbags and accessories and collections very soon. There is Gina Logia of Valencia, Spain, which invented a greener way to distress denim on a mass level. Distressed whiskered jeans continue to drive the global market. The fashion industry produces 6 billion pairs of jeans each year. Traditionally, finishing a pair of jeans, meaning washing, distressing them until they're broken in and soft, requires an average of 70 liters of water, 1.5 kilowatts of energy, and 150 grams of chemicals. In total, that equals an astonishing 350 million cubic liters of water, 7.5 billion kilowatts of energy, enough to power the city of Munich for a year, and 750,000 tons of chemicals each year just to distress our jeans. Denim industry consultants Jose Vidal and his nephew Enrique Silla created the three-step system to combat that. Lasers, which replace sandblasting and hand sanding and bleaching, ozone, which fades fabric without chemicals, and E-Flow, a washing system that uses microscopic nanobubbles and cuts water usage by 90%. The Gina Logia system can decrease energy consumption by 33%, chemicals by 67%, and if implemented most efficiently, water usage by 71%, or as the company proudly boasts, 1 glass of water per pair of jeans. Like there's fashion industry veteran Stacy Flynn of Evernew, the Seattle-based company that produces molecularly regenerated fiber made of 100% post-consumer cotton garment waste. What does that mean? Your old t-shirts, your old underwear, your old jeans. Evernew consumes 98% less water than virgin cotton, produces 80% less greenhouse gas emissions than polyester, viscose, or elastane, meaning like lycra and spandex, emits 0 plastic microfibers, causes 0 deforestation, and requires 0 farmland. There's Cindy Rhodes, an American expat in London who founded Worn Again Technologies, a company that has developed a patent process that separates, decontaminates, and extracts polyester and cellulose from cotton. Takes them apart. When you have a blended polyester cotton shirt, takes them apart and converts the polymers into virgin quality polyester, like Stacy Flynn does with virgin cotton. They do the same with their separated cotton as well. This is the circular way of recycling, reusing fabrics at a basic level. Circular is the future, Rhodes told me. It brings fashion head on with reality. Now, though their efforts are born out of concern for humanity and the planet, they also prove that sustainable practices are better for the bottom line. Which brings us back to the title of my book, Fashionopolis. How did I come up with it? Well, I sat on my sofa in Paris, meditating on all of this, about how fashion is everywhere we turn, that it we know somebody somehow involved with the business, that we wear it, we see it, we shop it. It's everywhere, right? I had recently read Aristotle's book, Politics, because, we think we're living in a new modern life, but in fact, nothing really changes. And I was reminded this reading Aristotle. In the book, he spoke of the Greek philosopher Plato and the polis, which in ancient Greek means city. As Plato put forth in the Socratic dialogue, The Republic, an ideal polis should embody 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. And if all come together harmoniously, the polis will attain perfect equality. It will be a just city. I thought of the unjust cities, such as Manchester in the 19th century when Richard Arkwright started those factories, and Manchester was known as Cottonopolis. I thought of Fritz Lang's movie Metropolis, with the workers slaving underground in these factories to make the wealthy in shiny towers live a beautiful, wonderful, stress-free life. I thought of Rana Plaza, all those people crushed by the rubble of the factory collapsing on them, and all those brands that said, we did not know that we were producing there, not our problem. I thought of the pollution, all the pollution. And then I thought of those wonderful change makers who are using innovation to improve the industry, from field to form, from dirt to dress. Their goals do indeed embody Plato's 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. We must all do what we can to support their efforts as consumers, as investors, as cheerleaders. Because honestly, don't we all want to live in a just world? Thank you.